Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Laymen Gaming Show! How are we? Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining today. Love you, appreciate you now. I'm going to be doing this on multiple platforms. Man, E3, huh? Now there's some more news that dropped over the weekend. Well, not new, but like it's a couple of days old now, right? E3 was cancelled, very, very sad. And on top of that, we also saw some other stuff too, in terms of the ESA boss, the E3 boss coming out, starting the blame game. Let's get to the drop and then let's get to the news. It's good to see so many people from so many platforms watching. All right. So, E3, man, it was end of an era. It's great. We love it. But it seems to not be here anymore. Everyone absolutely loved going to E3 if you were able to, or at least get to watch it, right? As we saw last week, it was sadly cancelled after Ubisoft pulled out, Sega pulled out, Tencent pulled out, Microsoft wasn't there, Nintendo wasn't there, a host of other companies weren't there also. And on top of that, Devolver Digital also came out and said, you know what, we're not going to do our car park thing, we're not going to be there, we're going to be at the Summer Games Fest. So Summer Games Fest seems to be the E3 now. I think Summer Games Fest is going to be the E3. ESA head blames E3 cancellation on wider industry challenges. He talks about a few things, ultimately saying, hey, it's not us, we love our gamers. We're fair. ESA is definitely not lobbying for the interests of the companies instead of the gamers. I thought everyone loved us. What the hell? They came out and said, the head of ESA, Pierre-Louis, I think I'm saying that right. First, he said, several companies have reported that the timeline for game development has been altered since the start of COVID pandemic. Second, economic headwinds have caused several companies to reassess how they invest in large marketing events. And third, companies are starting to experiment with how to find the right balance between in-person events and digital marketing opportunities. Now, I do agree with him, right? So he is saying like, not us guys, it's everything else. I mean, we couldn't do anything. But I do understand to an extent what he's saying. The landscape for marketing a game has changed fundamentally. Companies, not only do they want to try and minimize costs, but they want to maximize reach. E3 used to do that, but now not so much now. A lot of these companies now are allowed to control the narrative, do a pre-recorded show that costs less, and they're ultimately able to get the message out there and control what people are going to think. Because there was a lot of cringe at E3, a lot of live kind of presentations, and a lot of like nervous devs that'll be like, we want to show you our game today. How's everyone feeling? You know, like that would happen a lot where they would just be petrified on stage. But that was part of the cuteness of E3. That was part of all the greatness of E3. The ESA was a big proponent for backing big companies and big publishers, and ultimately did not help with monetization when it comes to fighting the good fight. So ESA is definitely not someone that everyone absolutely loves. But funnily enough, also, the ESA 2022 organizer says the big game companies were enthusiastic at first. So it sounds like at the beginning, everyone was really keen. A lot of big game publishers, apparently at least 3 big ones, we're like, yes, we're coming back to E3 2023. We love the idea and we want to make it even bigger. They were saying ultimately, Christopher Ding, the site's head of gaming for industry.biz, said that the industry just didn't want E3. But before that, companies were talking about taking up huge spaces, Dring wrote. The E3 team was looking at how we could expand into car park and use the extra areas that hadn't been used before, right? So at the beginning, it sounded like they were pretty keen. Everyone was like, yeah, cool. You know what? We love E3. Yes, let's do this again. We're on board. Hence why E3 was all steam ahead for a little bit at least. And then after a while, Sony, Ubisoft, Microsoft, and Nintendo gave reasons for pulling out, like our games aren't ready. We don't have code. We don't have code. I mean, that sounds something like a YouTuber says when they can't review. We can't be seen to be extravagant in this economy, and the timing just isn't right. Okay. Everything else is like, timing, like, they're pretty crappy answers, right? But one thing that they do say in this article, which the article also agrees with, I agree with, is one reason does sound pretty good for Microsoft, right? So they did recently, they let go in Jan of 10,000 employees, which actually equals about 5% of their total workforce. They let go of that many people, and then what? They're going to put a gigantic show at E3. Of course, the headlines are going to be like, well, hang on, you could have saved all these jobs. What the hell are you doing? But they are putting their show on anyway in terms of the Microsoft Theater, so they're still doing that. But Maybe in terms of E3 with a huge show floor and dishing out money to an external party, an external company, they didn't want to be seen to be doing that. So maybe they just want to minimize it by just doing the Microsoft Theater and not having some giant show floor with, you know, heaps of gadgets and stuff for people to look at. E3's done. And the blame game has begun. It wasn't us, guys. It was other things. And of course, there's been a lot of articles now covering this. And one that felt like a bit plain Prince Gaming was E3 wasn't cancelled. It was killed. I love that. I love that. Damn, I should have used that as a YouTube thumb. I knew the blame game would begin in some capacity. The ESA is a huge organization. They were going to always try and say, look, it's something else. It's not us. It's something else that's fundamentally changed our ability to run E3. But I don't think E3 is coming back, right? As this beautiful article says, E3 wasn't cancelled, it was killed. And it ultimately goes on to say what we've spoken about in the last couple of episodes, where the digital power of getting game information across to an audience, controlling the narrative. And over the last decade, we've seen Nintendo, we've seen EA, and we've seen Sony ultimately dip out of E3 with all their digital showcases with Nintendo Direct and Ubisoft now doing Ubisoft Forward. Sony didn't want to show up for 2 years. You know, and EA doing their own thing off campus. So in that regard, it was just only a matter of time, in my opinion. Some people are like, I hate ESA, I'm just happy it's done. I'm more in the camp of, it was fun, it was great, it brought creators together. For me, I met a lot of wonderful creators. I met Yong Ye there for the first time. That was great fun. We just got to see cool people and also the energy, and we got to meet people that like the show. We like to meet devs, it was just awesome to see not only new games, but just friendly faces and people in the community that love gaming. That was great. But the Summer Games Fest, I think, is going to be the new E3. I think we all know that, right?